Welcome to Good Samaritan Spotlight. My name is Adam Thacker. I'm the President and Chief Administrative Officer here at Good Samaritan. It is February, and so that means it is Heart Month. And I am pleased to be joined with Lori and Michelle. These are two of our experts in our Dayson Heart Center. And I'll ask both of you, give a little bit of background of yourself. So Lori, I know you've got a lot of years in healthcare, so tell us a little bit about your journey in healthcare and what led to being our Pacemaker Nurse Coordinator.
So this is my 46th year, and I'm going to be retiring in less than a month after 30 years doing this job and turning that over to Michelle.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I started out my career here at Good Samaritan Hospital with 16 years in OB, and then moved to the physician office, the cardiologist office, and then came back through here. So for the last 30 years, pacemakers and arrhythmias have been my life. Yeah.
Well, that is an awesome career, and thank you for all of those years of service.
Thank you.
And you're going to be handing it over to Michelle. So
Yes.
Michelle, your background?
So I've been a nurse for about 12 years. I started off in surgery, and then I went to home health, and I was cath lab, and then now I am taking over big shoes to
Yes.
fill. And well, hopefully I do her well.
She will.
Thankfully, we've been able to set it up where you've had a great time for transition and making that as smooth as possible.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about arrhythmias. So just for baseline, what is an arrhythmia?
Arrhythmia is just like, it's an irregular heartbeat. There's several types of arrhythmias. Like AFib is like the most common that people experience, and it's just where like the upper chambers of the heart will kind of quiver instead of beating effectively and circulating the blood to blood flow. And it's linked to stroke, so if it's not treated effectively, you have to, could lead to stroke. So you're normally placed on blood thinners. Then there's bradycardia. There's a slow heart rate. That's an arrhythmia where the heart's not beating effectively enough to perfuse the organs, and oxygen-rich blood needs to be delivered. So,
Okay. So we can be all over the place. We can have our heart beats too fast, tachycardia, too slow, bradycardia. We can all be normal, but everybody has their own range, right? So we really want, from a patient standpoint, folks watching, what would be symptoms that would say, hey, maybe your heart rhythm is out of whack enough that they should see a physician?
So a lot of people complain of like weakness or fatigue or heart palpitations, shortness of breath, just like dizziness, lightheadedness.
And this is where I'll put in the plug of making sure as a patient you have a primary care physician. A lot of the care can start there. But if they do identify that there's a heart rhythm issue, now that moves to a specialist. So who would the patients see?
So we always recommend that they do start out with their PCP. They can start the initial set of testing. Most patients start out with what we call one of our external monitors.
Yes.
They look like this. It's just a simple patch that is placed center line. You can wear it for 3, 7, or 14 days. They return it to us. This comes off, pops into a little download. The information goes to the company. Takes about 20 seconds for that download. So technology has increased tremendously with this. And then we get a report back read by our cardiologist. If there's an issue, no matter, the report goes back to their primary care. But if there's an issue, then we can get onto that right away and start, making plans for them to see one of the cardiologists, which would be Dr. Gill, Dr. Bassador, or Dr. Karana, and go from there for the next step.
Yeah, and talk about advances in technology.
Yes.
That little thing worn externally instead of carrying around a big monitor and
Exactly.
Feeling like the whole world is seeing that. Now it's just wear that for a few weeks and get good reads.
Right, and we get so much better results. We get so much more accurate results with these than we ever did with the others. So yeah, this has changed a lot of lives by getting to just wear this small thing. Patients can shower with them. It's not as nearly as restrictive as it used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so patients identified with an arrhythmia may need medication, also medical intervention. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit to the pacemaker side of things. So you've brought
I brought some toys.
an implantable device called a pacemaker.
So I'm going to show you first off when I first started here, this was the size of the device that we put in people. And it's very heavy, very cumbersome. Most pacemakers are implanted on the left side, some on the right side. These were way too heavy for that. So they were implanted in the belly. They were very uncomfortable for the patients,
Yes, I can see
and
that.
they didn't last. These batteries honestly didn't last that many years. Now that has changed into this is our device. It's very lightweight, and it does get implanted in one side or the other depending on what hand the patient uses the most. They come with either 1 or 2 leads, and that's one's implanted in the top chamber or the atrium, one in the bottom chamber, which is the ventricle. It can be just a single chamber for patients who have AFib. They don't need that second one. Then as you move on up, patients who have a lot sicker hearts, they get implanted with what's called a biventricular. So they also have an atrial lead, but they have a lead in both of their ventricles. These people are patients who have been so sick that they maybe haven't left their house in a long time. You don't see them in Walmart or the grocery store. Once they get this, because of the 2 biventricular leads, it makes the bottom of the heart beat in synchrony. So therefore, it improves, it's like it exercises the heart. So it improves their way of life tremendously.
Right.
Now you see these people in Walmart or in the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah, and that's
they
what we're
feel-
looking for, right?
And they
Improve
feel so
quality
much
of
better.
life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then moving on from that, for the fast rhythms, for defibrillators, we don't implant defibrillators here, but we do follow them. So in the clinic, we see roughly about 1,200 patients, give or take a few, all the time. So the defibrillators are put in by an electrophysiologist, which is an advanced cardiologist that specializes in the electrical system. So they come in the same routes with various number of leads. So this is just a basic one. And then this is the patients with the absolute sickest hearts that have fast arrhythmias that could be lethal. And they have the two ventricular leads also. So this definitely improves their way of life. Now, going from the big one, this is the wave of the future, this little tiny, looks like a fishing lure type thing. And it is implanted similarly to having a heart cath. It goes up through the groin and goes up, and it actually implants on the wall of the heart and the wall between the 2 chambers. And so it just sits in there and kind of dingles around, and it works as a pacemaker the same way as these do. So
Pretty fascinating advances.
It is
in
very
technology.
fascinating. It is very fascinating. These have a little bit more of a risk of, right now there's not as much ability to get them out. Now lasers can take out leads if these need to come out, and they will eventually. They're starting that technology, but right now you wouldn't want to put this on a really young person because, the batteries do last about 15 years. But on a very young person, by the time they're 90, they could have a whole collection. So those would need to be lasered out at different times. So
Right.
that's an improvement.
I wish I could get 15-year batteries for my TV remote.
Exactly, or patients with hearing aids, they say the same thing. But yeah, these generally do last. It depends on how much you use the pacemaker. If it's kind of like the flashlight in your drawer, if you turn it on every day, it uses up faster than if you just turn it on when the power goes off. So patients use their pacemakers varying amounts of time depending on what they need. Pacemakers are a demand type thing. So if they throw in their own heartbeats, that's great. They don't need to use it.
Right.
But so some patients use theirs very little and some patients use theirs 100%. So that's where the battery life. But every time they come in or they do remote checks with a little monitor that they have at their bedside, it tells us how much time is actually left on their battery, which is a huge improvement from when I first started this. They just could put little bands on and make a phone call. They had to call into the clinic. All that told us was if it was working right at that moment. It didn't tell us anything else. Now we have so much more information that we can actually know how that patient's doing at all times. Yeah.
So that leads into the next question I was going to ask. So talk a little bit about, as the Pacemaker Nurse Coordinator role, how do you interact with patients? What's the information that's shared? And then you also are sharing that information with the cardiologist or other healthcare team.
So they come in the office to see us twice a year, and it's called an interrogation, but it's really simple. It's not like this kind of thing.
Yes.
So anyway,
No waterboarding.
No,
Okay.
none of that kind of
All
thing.
right.
It's just a little programming head that's attached to a programmer that sits at the bed beside the chair, goes over their pacemaker, that communicates back and forth. It tells us things like how much battery life how much they've used it. It measures the heartbeats to see how big they are to make sure that we've got it programmed exactly the way we want to. It measures the electrical current that goes through the lead to make sure that that's still okay, that they haven't cracked a lead or it hasn't had any damage to it. And then it also measures a threshold to make sure that it's sending out enough juice, enough battery to capture the patient's heartbeat. So it gives us a wealth of information that we need. So then at that point, we see that, we check it, we route it to the doctors, they read off on it, and that takes care of those. They come in twice a year because that's what insurance and Medicare allows. Then we also have what's called remote checks, and they have monitors at home. I should have brought one. Little round monitors, they plug it in at their bedside. It does everything automatically for them. It looks for them at night when they're sleeping, generally between midnight and 2. It checks the pacemaker, does a little mini check just to make sure everything's okay. If it is okay, it passes it on. If it's not okay, it sends us a notice that we get on our website from the company every morning so that we know if there's something that we need to look into. And then twice a year in between times and when they come in, it does a full report that we review and send to the physicians. So they're actually that's what Medicare will cover, so that's what we do. The rest of the time, it's just kind of like a free service to know that their pacemaker is being watched. Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else that you'd like to add for folks watching regarding pacemaker or arrhythmias?
So with the external monitors that we do, if we don't find anything but the patient's still having symptoms, or with the new technology that we have with teleneurology here, that we have patients that we are looking to see what caused their stroke, and we're looking specifically for AFib to see if they have that so that we know how to treat them best. If this doesn't show anything, then we can put in what's called an implantable loop recorder, which is this little device.
Okay.
It comes in a pre-filled syringe. They come into the procedure room, and it goes in a slanting position right in this area. They get numbed up, make a little tiny poke hole. It comes in a pre-filled syringe. It just slips under the skin, shoots in. These last for 5.5 years battery life, and it constantly is monitoring the heartbeat. If there's anything that's abnormal that we need to see, it downloads it to us, and we can show the doctor what we've had, which might lead to a defibrillator or a pacemaker or a medication change.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you both. Lori, thank you for 46 years of service, and we wish you all the best in retirement. Michelle, look forward to you taking over and keeping this very valuable program going that's keeping care close to home. Without this service, patients would be traveling an hour plus away, and so something as a community we're very proud to offer.
Yes.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Good Samaritan Spotlight.